bureaucracy to manage the bureaucracy that oversees people's houses. Is that the right level?
Not quite sure how to answer that.
Okay. You care about this bill?
We don't have a position on the bill.
Got a question of the witness. Who appoints the board?
Mr. Chairman, the board is, sorry, the board is appointed by the governor.
I was hoping that. I was hoping it was a speaker.
Okay. Thank you for being here. I don't believe we have any other CICD bills. Okay. There is a motion to report, properly seconded. Is there any further debate? All right. All those in favor of recommending reporting 2307, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. You have us 3 noes? Okay. 4 noes? Who's 4 noes? On this bill? 3 noes. Just us. Just 3. I think it didn't limp. So we either pass, we either kill bills or pass unanimously, so that is a unique vote pattern on this one. Thanks for coming.
So is it dead? Yeah.
No, we passed. Oh, seriously?
It's like only a 2/3 vote. You better leave quick.
All right, I voted on the prevailing side. Always be recommended. Delegate Poindexter, you're up. We have substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Takes so much time with that. House Bill 1427, I believe there's a substitute.
So the substitutes in front of you, the change is on line 37 and 38. It is killing a judgeship in the 22nd and creating a judgeship in the 21st, as I understand it.
That's correct. The judges in 21st and 22nd came to me after session last year, and based on caseload and knowing both the communities, asked if I would try to move one from one district to the other. And that's why I'm here today.
And so just by way of background, we have this study going on right now to kind of look at this stuff. The Senate actually killed this bill already on the Senate side. So we could advance this bill. It could theoretically have to go to appropriations because they think they're in charge of this stuff. And then you do have this question of the study that's going on. But anyways, we have the substitute before us. We have a motion on the substitute. I have a motion to adopt substitute. Move second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? On just second. Where's the 21st and where's the 22nd? Is this Danville?
22nd is Franklin, Pennsylvania, Danville. 21st is Patrick Henry, Martinsville. I understand the issue here on appropriations. This year there wouldn't be any fiscal impact because that extra judgeship is not funded right now anyway.
So the judgeship is being eliminated, exists in the code, but is unfilled and unfunded.
That's correct.
And so we could shift it in the code, and they may still leave the unfunded anyways.
Until it goes upstairs and we provide the money, nothing's going to happen. There's no fiscal impact for the bill.
As someone who hangs out on the 9th floor, is it your impression that if we were to take this forward, that it needs to go upstairs?
I haven't sent any feelers up. Probably wouldn't.
And don't ask, don't tell kind of situation, right?
Right. I understand. I have to say this too. I knew you did this study a couple of years ago to study how many we needed work, but I did not know that an update was going, and I don't believe the judges in 21st and 22nd knew that when they approached me for the bill. So if you want to follow Senate action, I'm not.
I think the study is supposed to report to us next year. Is that the right? It's next year. We'll get a report before session next year. And there's some consideration that we shouldn't do any of these this year and instead do a total rewrite to adopt the new study next year.
I don't mind going to sleep in that respect. Like I say, I did not know you had that study going on because I didn't see anything in the budget to fund you to do that update to that study.
Secret language in the budget that a lot of us don't understand what it means. You got to put lemon juice on the page, and then it appears. Delegate Hope.
Chairman,
Because we did do the study a few years ago. My question is, did that study indicate that the caseload for this seat that's in question that you're bringing over does in fact warrant another judge? Because we did do this process, so it did not.
We codified the caseload, so they are now making a change to the caseload, striking one that we thought was necessary, creating one we thought was not necessary.
Oh.
Which is why Chairman Jones and others asked for the update, because once we had sort of a baseline, we would come from that. And I expect we'll see a lot of these kinds of tweaks probably get filed next year in an omnibus bill, probably carried by the chairman of the judicial subcommittee, that incorporates the new caseload, the new study results.
I would have doubt if we send this bill upstairs, the same fate will happen as the Senate because of the,
Right.
what you say.
I mean, so we have a motion to report, moved and seconded. I think the patron understands that laying this bill on the table might be what happens this year, with an understanding we come back next year. That would only happen if someone made a substitute motion.
Mr. Chairman, I seconded, so I'll withdraw my second.
Okay. All right, so the bill is for the subcommittee. I think this need exists, and I think this need hopefully will be reflected in the caseload study next year. All right, so we had a motion with no second, so the bill's now back before the committee. Do we have a motion on the bill? Go ahead and lay it on the table this year, understanding we'll address it next year. Anybody? All right, we have a motion and a second to lay House Bill 23, excuse me, that's the wrong bill number. House Bill 1427 on the table, with the understanding we'll revisit next year with the weighted caseload study. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
All right, I think Fred is your next on my sign up here. And then Lindsay, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. What this bill does, what House Bill 2024 does is that it significantly reduces the circumstances in which quick take can be used. However, I've had recent discussions with VDOT, VML, and VACO. I think what we would like to do at this point is significantly reduce the scope of the language of this bill for this session. Come back next year with something that's been a little bit more developed, with more stakeholder input. So, if at all possible, I'd like to advise so we can again reduce the scope of this bill to push it more toward notification requirements instead of significantly limiting the scope of which.
So you're asking us to take 2024 by for the day? I understand we have one more meeting of the subcommittee, it's Wednesday, and we're either gonna hear bills or not, that's it.
That sounds good.
Okay. Yep, unless we get another bill sent to us that we weren't aware of, we are going to finish our docket, including bills that have been taken by this Wednesday, which will meet in the Capitol on Wednesday. Got it. All right, so, motion to recommend, or excuse me, motion to take House Bill 2024 by for the day, moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thanks, sir.
Thank you.
This language that's based on the old Virginia Education Loan Authority. So again, we didn't write this from scratch. We didn't start from the beginning. We took what had existed here in Virginia from.
So we used to have something similar to this in the past.
Yeah, we had the Virginia Education Loan Authority in the past. So this is the old language.
Since I'm new at this, can you tell us why we don't do that anymore? Why we got out of that business, give the policy reasons that?
I think that there was thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Sickles, Delegate Sickles, in 1997, the Allen administration decided to privatize and get out of the student loan market. Let's go private with it, which is interesting because when you look at the student loan debt curve, that you have the rate of increase in the student loan debt burden, sort of the time that there was a policy decision made in the late 90s by a lot of places to get out of this business and let the feds take over, and the amount of debt went way up. And so we decided this would be private or federal, and we decided to get out of the business in '97. Since then, I think we've had an opportunity to see what the results are, and they haven't been good for student loan debt.
One comment is that one of the facts that I think we've all heard, or maybe we all haven't heard it, but it made an impression on me. We have the oldest age now of first-time home buyers in the country because of this, mainly because of this problem. People are not buying their first house until they're in their 30s, and that didn't need to be. That wasn't the way it used to be. And so, if we could find a way to work on this problem, it would be a huge stimulus to the economy and to the real estate industry, which, with the house, buying a house generates sales of all kinds of retail products. It's the main thing that keeps the 70% consumer-based economy going. So it would be good if we could work on something like this. Thank you,
Okay,
Chairman.
any other questions from the committee? Anyone here to speak for the bill?
Julie Emery, Virginia Civic Engagement Table. I'm here to read the testimony from Megan, who's unable to be here herself. She's a parent and associate professor in Fairfax County. My federal loans have an 8.25% interest rate. I owed approximately $35,000 when I graduated. I now owe $61,000. Sally Mae was my loan servicer. Now it's Navient. I was led to believe that income-based repayment was in my best interest, and my payments were $680 a month, way more than I can afford. I decided against reapplying and am now under a standard repayment plan and pay $540 a month. I wasn't made aware of more affordable payment arrangements until I filed a complaint with the Consumer Federal Protection Bureau. My children are in elementary school, and I will be paying for these loans long after they complete school. If I didn't have to make these payments each month, I would be saving for a house and my children's education. Instead, I'm in indentured servitude. Megan.
Come up. The only thing I would request is, you seem to have read a long one, please just don't repeat what someone else has said previously. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Kimberly Adams, and I'm from Fairfax County. I speak in support of student debt relief. I'm an educator in Fairfax County of 17 years. I just finished paying off my undergraduate, and now I'm paying for my master's degree. My husband is also a teacher and still carries most of his undergraduate debt. He's in one of those programs that was based on a graduated payment plan, and we will now have been paying for that for 17 years, and he's not even halfway through. We made a choice about 5 years ago whether or not to have a second child or to wait longer than we might have needed in order to be able to actually have a second child. Now we raise our 2 children in Fairfax County, and we finally bought our first home, and I'm 40 years old. We pay more than $600 a month in student loans, and we both still encourage people to go into the teaching profession, but it is definitely a challenging profession, and we're not compensated enough to make up the student loan debt we carry. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Hello, Delegate Anderson. How are you? My name is Riley O'Casey. I am an educator in Virginia. I'm also serving as the president of the Prince William Education Association. I bought my first house at the age of 40, and I would not have been able to do that had I not had help from the government. I am grateful for the loans that I received. I was the first in my family to graduate from high school. I was the first in my family to attend and graduate from college. And as I was receiving these loans, as Delegate Simon said, I never received anything that said you should be paying some of this now. And so when I walked across the stage with my master's degree, excited to teach in Prince William County, I owed $50,000. And my first year of teaching, I made $35,000. When I had a car accident, I was trying to buy a new car when my car was totaled, and they said, we're very hesitant to give you a loan because you owe more than you make. I'm hoping that this is something that will, I'm in support of student loan refinancing in Virginia because our college students and our graduate students and the people that are finishing school, they need help. And I hope this is something that, will help. I'm still paying my loans back, and I'm in my 17th year of teaching. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Charlotte Heron. I am a 32-year veteran teacher in the city of Richmond. I am the first in my family to graduate from college with a degree. I graduated from undergraduate with no loan debt. However, teaching here in the city of Richmond, in an effort to improve my potential salary, I decided that I would go back and work on a master's degree. I have accumulated $30,000 worth of debt, and I did not complete the program. Needless to say, in the midst of all this, my husband had a serious injury at work, lost that job. We had medical bills. Subsequently lost that job, had a lower paying job that he was able to secure, and all the while I'm still teaching and working with children. Being stuck on the same step of a salary scale, no raises in our teacher salary, it has become difficult for me to pay back student loan debt. I was in my late 40s when I bought my first home, and now I am rethinking that thought that I should not probably have done that then. It's very difficult to pay back a student loan debt that I'm required to pay back, along with keeping a household going and continuing to maintain the job that I have, not being able to move up because I cannot afford to improve my education to the next level, which is a master's degree. This student loan refinancing, I hope, is something that will be beneficial, particularly for those of us who are in the field of education. We do have a crisis in teachers, finding teachers, and if teachers can't pay for their college degrees or help get a second degree to improve their learning, their professional, educational learning, then we won't have those persons in the field of education doing what needs to be done in the Commonwealth. I am hopeful that your assistance in making something like this would help other persons as well as myself. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adolph Brown. I'm a college grad from Virginia State University with a degree in economics. Many students at Virginia State are first-generation students who do not know the process of making decisions to avoid making loans to pay for their education. Lucky for me, I have my older sister to help me through the process. Once you're in student debt, it's hard to avoid drowning in it. Despite my best efforts to avoid a lot of debt, I managed to have $40,000 altogether in loans. And so I stand here today, not only for myself, but for students in a situation just like me and my younger siblings that want to attend college in the future. I have many friends who are in a position who struggle to pay their bills and pay their student debt. Even some have a full-time job and a part-time to pay off their debt. Though there seems no option to appear perfect when you're struggling with student debt, I feel this bill helps those who are in the same shoes as me. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Anna Scholl with Progress Virginia. I know you all have put a lot of emphasis on reducing the overall cost of higher education, and it's an important priority, but I think when we're looking at the cost of higher education, bringing down the future cost is only half the problem. I think we also have to look at the large body of existing borrowers, over 1 million Virginians with over $30 billion in debt, that are the other side of that coin. As Delegate Simon noted, Virginia student loan borrowers have done everything right. They have played by the rules, they went to school, they got an education, and they got a degree to get ahead in life, because that's what we promise students is the way to economic success. And for too many of those students, they've graduated into an economy where there isn't a job with a salary that supports them paying back the loans that they took on. And these students aren't asking for those loans to be forgiven, or for the slate to be wiped clean, but they are asking for assistance in figuring out how to manage that burden. And it's not just an issue for individual borrowers, but it's an issue for Virginia's economy overall. There's increasing body of research, some of it coming from the New York Fed, that the burden of student loan debt and the national student loan debt crisis is impacting home buying, car purchasing, starting new businesses, entrepreneurship, and overall purchasing power. And I think as we look at economic growth in Virginia and what we're going to do to move the economy forward, we have to think how we're going to support these million borrowers who are drowning under their student debt, so that they can put that money back into their communities while paying off those loans in a way that is reasonable, while also helping spur economic growth. So I hope you'll take a serious look at proposals before you to help address that crisis this year.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Kathy Bircher with the Virginia Education Association, and we support this bill.
Okay, is anyone here to speak against the bill? Okay, any other further questions? Delegate Greason.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Delegate Simon, just a quick question. I actually hadn't, until the testimony you heard, tied this to the concept of buying your first home. And I guess that makes sense. If you're struggling under student loan debt, then you might delay the purchase of that first home. So my question is, if we were to figure out a way to relieve the student debt because the students followed the rules and they were promised an education and they were promised a good job, and they didn't have some money, wouldn't it make sense that maybe someone might come back in a couple of years and say, now I'm struggling under my mortgage. So I bought a house and I bought it under the same rules and I really can't pay my mortgage anymore, and I thought I would get a good job and a safe roof for my house, but now I can't pay it. So I'm back in line and I'd like you guys to pay my mortgage because I didn't do anything wrong. And I'm really concerned about where this train might be going, and I'd kind of like to get your perspective on that so that I don't think whatever I think. So I'd love your.
Well, I'd love, thank you, Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to try and change your mind on that. I appreciate that. I think which is what you're asking me. So a couple of distinctions to make. One is, and this is in my wheelhouse, because I help people close residential real estate loans every day. You gotta sign a stack of disclosures in a packet that's like this thick, and we spend a good 45 minutes to an hour at each mortgage closing, going over the terms of your mortgage, you know, line by line, what every fee is, everything that's gonna happen, how that's gonna be repaid, what that's gonna look like, and so forth. And so we have a companion bill, it's sort of to go with this piece of legislation, which is in a different committee, to create a student loan borrower bill of rights and start licensing student loan servicers. Because the fact is that it's not, the amount of information you get about what your loan balance is going to look like, how you're going to repay, what your repayment options are, is nothing like what we have with mortgages when it comes to student loans. And I'd like that to change as well. We do get to do that going forward. But folks that have already gotten those loans don't know. The other thing is there's no asset. I mean, if you can't afford your mortgage payment and you overbought, your loan doesn't work out, again, you can refinance it. We already do allow that with mortgages. If you have equity, you can refinance and get better terms, which is all we're really asking to do here, or you can sell the asset. So those are things that are good. You can't get back your diploma and get your money back.
Cover the House bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, a couple questions.
Sure. Just go ahead and ask.
And I don't know if you can answer this question, Delegate Simon, or if Mr. Mashville may be the one. What are the requirements now for universities to disclose to students who are getting these loans about what we've heard that you can start paying now, or the process of paying and how that loan builds up? Is that better for you?
Mr. Chairman, I think Lee Andes is in the audience here someplace. I've seen him. There he is. This gentleman here, in terms of financial aid, is very well versed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Lee Andes from Chev, and the requirements. The federal government requires every institution, when they certify a loan or students even borrow, they have to go what they call insurance counseling and exit counseling. And during that counseling session, they are made aware that there are benefits and provisions available to them. The students are told how to find them, but you know, to the point, you know, going down point by point with the individual student, that probably doesn't take place. It's more about telling them what provisions are out there, than they have to find out what their student has, how it works for them.
Thank you very much. So then it's on the student to figure out what they need to do, really, rather than us providing true guidance for new students or just students, period. What options are out there now for refinancing?
So right now there are some commercial folks that are starting to get into the business, and there's again some big companies. SoFi is out there and they're advertising. What most of the commercial folks are trying to do is cherry pick right now. They're trying to get the cream off the top, doctors and lawyers and folks with loans that they can refinance. But there's not a lot of options, and you know, the federal government, you know, there are bills introduced frequently to try and get the feds to actually start refinancing some of these loans, but it's just not an option for 90% of the market.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, Dr. Massey, we'll give you the last word.
One last question, Mr. Chairman, and then I'll have to say.
Delegate Simon, the education department, you know, the federal government is 90% gorilla in this market. They make over 90% of the loans. Every January, the education department comes out with its college school board repayment rates, which is tells how the outstanding portfolio, which is about $900 billion, is doing. They came out with this last January. Are you familiar with what the new average 3-year repayment rate is on federal loans these days?
I have not.
So, Mr. Chairman, just for edification, only 46% of current federal borrowers, student loan borrowers, are current on their loans. That means 54% of that $900 billion are in default.
That tells me we've got a problem that needs solutions, and I think we at the state level ought to be stepping up to help solve that problem.
I have one question. Attorney, you're probably best to answer this, because obviously, Delegate Simon, one of our big responsibilities up here is we're looking at least a $1.2 million deficit. And I think concerned
looking at your budget amendment, you have $225,000 for the startup cost, and that just seems woefully short. So maybe give us some scenarios by which, if you do a certain portfolio of loans, probably what our obligations would be. I think the committee's got to take that seriously, because that's what we're going to have to build into this budget. And obviously, we're trying to look for K-12 and higher ed. So maybe a scenario or two would help me sort of focus on what that number might be.
So right now, it's my understanding that there's annually about $1.5 billion of debt that Virginia students borrow. That's public, private, and private. So this would be, they would all be eligible, and that's all students, all in-state students. If you were to do, let's say, $100 million, start off with some number, $100 million, and you had to capitalize that, so you're issuing bonds. Probably a safe assumption is around a 4% interest rate on the bonds, assuming that that would give you the ability to loan the money out at somewhere in that range. So 4% on $100 million is about $7.5 million of debt service. And if you're originating some of that, you're probably not expecting repayment for about somewhere 4 to 6 years before repayments start to come in. And if you're doing $100 million a year until you get to that 6 year or that 4-year mark or whatever, so it's 7.5, and then it's 15 in the second year, and then 22.5, and then 30. So that's at the 100 million mark. You could expect several million, tens of millions of dollars of debt service until payments start to come in, and then it's a matter of trying to cash flow that to see exactly how much payments come in and balancing out cash flows, not only for repayment of the existing bonds, but then if you could stay in the business, any kind of future bonds that you have to sell. The other issue may be 4% is probably, that's the rate that we get on our AA bonds. These would not be, I talked to Treasury, these would not even be moral obligation bonds. Although I don't, again, whether we walked away from them or not, but you may have to provide a little kicker to the bondholders because of the inherent risk of what they're buying. There's no asset that they're buying at this point. It isn't like capital construction or something like that. So it might be 4% rate. If you have every 1% of additional rate, you're going to spend, somewhere in the neighborhood of about $1 million or something like that.
Okay, Delegate Massey. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the federal government, the previous administration in July 2010, basically through the Health Care and Education Reconciliation Act, took over the student loan program. I can't tell you how sympathetic I am to those people that came up to that podium and told me about their student loan problem. Part of the responsibility of any responsible lender is to work with the borrowers to make them evaluate the risk and the rewards of taking on a certain amount of debt. And I think what the problem we have here is the federal government has just been pumping money out the door, and they have not fulfilled that obligation to inform those citizens about the risk and the rewards they have taken to take on all this debt. And as a result of that, Mr. Chairman, we're seeing that over half of the loans, 54% to be exactly, per the January report of the Education Department, are in default. So, Mr. Chairman, solving a government problem with more government, especially when it's in a private sector activity like lending. One of the things Tony didn't even mention, if you're going to go 7 years and do $100 million a year, this thing can have a $600 or $700 million balance sheet in that period of time. The average, the marketplace in the world now is requiring 10% capital ratio. You're talking about needing $60 or $70 million of equity capital to support that. And, not to mention the negative cash flow that Tony was talking about, you can get up to $100 million pretty quickly. I don't know where that capital is coming from. Given the fact that Rhode Island is the only other state that's done it, they haven't done it for very long. And I just, putting the state of Virginia, while I can tell you how sympathetic I am to these people out here who the federal government has done a huge disservice to, putting the state of Virginia in the same business and trying to fix the problem is not the solution in my mind. Somebody who has, again, made billions of dollars worth of loans and collected billions of dollars and done tens of $millions of startup and actually done a couple $100 million financial services startup. So, Mr. Chairman, with all that, and being a good imitator rather than a risky imitator, with all that, I would move that we lay House Bill 1916 on the table.
Okay, this motion to lay the bill on the table, is there a second?
Second.
Non-debatable motion. All those in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it, the bill is tabled. Thank you, delegates. Next we have Delegate Price, HB 1916. I think it's sort of another version of this concept. 1895. Delegate Price, welcome.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee,
Oh, sorry. I will try not to be too duplicative with some of the stats, but I think I could serve as both the patron of a bill and testifier. So right now, I will speak to the bill before us. But going to college is a dream for many Virginians, with the prospect of immersing ourselves in an educational experience where we can develop ourselves towards our dream job and making a difference in our community. And beyond that, the prospect of making enough money to enjoy life, to buy a home, buy a car, to take trips around the Commonwealth and help our tourism. But this trajectory goes awry at the point of graduation or after the grace period, when exorbitant monthly payments to loan servicers take the place of mortgages and car payments. As you've heard, about 1 million Virginians owe more than $30 billion in student loans. And some of the borrowers, as you've heard, have received forbearance on loan payments during those tough economic times, and the loan principal grew significantly. Beyond the weight of carrying the debt, refinancing student loans for lower interest rates can be nearly impossible for most borrowers. As we heard, the people that have defaulted, there is an argument to be made if we were able to refinance those loans at lower monthly payments, the default may not have occurred. About 630,000 Virginia borrowers could benefit from refinancing their student loans. And when we're talking about people's purchasing power being negatively impacted, the resulting impact on our community, on our economy, this requires our attention. When a generation is significantly unable to participate in the economy or choose careers based on their passion for having to weigh how to pay back large monthly payments, we need to help create solutions. These borrowers, including me, want to live up to our financial obligations. These are Virginians, as you've heard, we did everything right. We went to school, we got our degree, and now we're trying to pay them off. We're not asking for the debt to be wiped out, just help getting it under control. HB 1895 would establish the Virginia Student Loan Refinancing Authority. A 10-member board would govern the authority toward developing and implementing a program where the authority can intervene to help Virginia borrowers refinance their existing loan debt from institutions of higher education in the Commonwealth. The authority would issue bonds to finance its obligations under such loan guarantees. And this would be a public-private partnership positioning the state to connect borrowers with lenders that they otherwise wouldn't be able to get on their own. This is not the state taking over the loans, but playing an integral part in the connection. There may be an inclination to ask, well, I paid off my loans, why can't they pay off theirs? Or to say that they should have been more responsible for the loans they took out. I can tell you that when I was making my decision between which loan to get or having to go home with no college degree, I was willing to sign on the line. I urge you that this situation is not just a small minority of bad decision makers. This is about a generation being impacted because the average college graduate leaves school with $28,000. And if you make the decision to possibly leave the state, it could be upwards of $90,000. While we are working to lower the overall cost of education for future students, we need to, in tandem, tackle the impacts of current outstanding debt and its impact on the economy. And to address the budget amendment that we have submitted, it is for $225,000 as well to establish and start up the board. This would be a one-time budget cost for the startup because once in place, the board would be self-supporting and revenue neutral. I hope you will support HB 1895 so that we can help graduates pay back their loans and become part of the growing economy.
Okay, we tried to be, thank you, Delegate Price, we tried last time, I think, to hear most of the testimony. I think most of the testimony, obviously, as Delegate Massey said, was mainly on the problem of student loan debt. So let's try to focus on the mechanics, I guess, of the bill. And if anyone wants to speak to the bill, it should be directly, on the, I think, on the substance of this bill, not so much on the support for giving student loan debt. Delegate Massey, let's try to move on. Cool.
I've got a couple of questions, Mr. Chairman, so I'll just do it. Delegate Price, it looks like to me, as I've read your bill earlier today, is the major difference between your bill and Delegate Simon's bill is you're just putting us in the guarantee business, where we can guarantee the debt, and then that would allow the student to refinance that debt. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, there are lots of different forms of guarantees. Guarantee is a credit enhancement. What form of credit enhancement would this guarantee take?
So I will be completely honest with you. My experience has been as a borrower, and so I would expect that the 10-member board, with all of the stipulations that we've put out, especially for 2 of them to have no less than 10 years experience in the actual arena, that they would be able to figure that out, as that's what the powers we would be giving them.
And then if you're going to credit enhance already existing securities with a guarantee, why do you need to issue bonds? What would the bond proceeds be used for?
It's a mechanism in order to make sure that they could be covered. But again, I'm not going to purport to be an expert in the field. I'm trying to get the experts together so that they can come up with a solution for this epidemic that is impacting our economy.
So, the only reason you would issue bonds, the only reason you would need money to back a guarantee off is if the guarantee was, the borrower failed, and whoever you guaranteed the debt to needed to collect. So the only reason the bonds would need to be issued is if the state was losing money and we had to issue bonds to cover those losses. Is that correct?
Okay, any other discussion? All right, Chair will entertain a motion on the bill.
Mr. Chairman, look, again, I can't tell you how sympathetic I think all of us are to the plight of people like Delegate Price, and who've been sold a bill of goods by the federal government and taking out all these student loans and weren't counseled on properly the risk and rewards there. I mean, it breaks my heart, because that's what lenders ought to do. But putting the state of Virginia in the business of guaranteeing these loans, when the private sector could do that, and when the federal government has got a 54% default rate on their current, just putting the state of Virginia in that business, it's just not a good idea, Mr. Chairman. And so with that, I would move that we gently lay House Bill 1895 on the table.
The motion is to lay HB 1895 on the table. Is there a second? Second. Once again, it's a non-debatable motion. All those in favor of that motion signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. No. Those, that bill is laid on the table. Thank you for your time. Okay, let's move on to the budget amendments. We have a sign-up list. I think we're going to start with Delegate Yost.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the subcommittee.
Page 14. Okay, page 14. If you sort of look at your master list, the page numbers are on the right-hand side of the delegate's name. So, Delegate Yost, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 2 budget amendments. The first one is 224, number 1H. This is a budget amendment that allow Virginia Tech to further improve and expand state-of-the-art programs in cybersecurity and its embedded systems at the university. As y'all are aware, cybersecurity is one of the fastest growing employment sectors in the country and in the research environment as well. So this just goes to expand those efforts.
Thank you, Delegate Yost.
And then the second one is 226, number 1H. This is a general fund request for $2.5 million to go towards the Virginia Tech Brilliant Research Institute, which I don't have to do a whole lot of explanation here, but y'all have been gracious enough over the last couple of years to support that. But it also goes towards their autonomous systems research as well.
Great, well, thank you, Delegate.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate it. Yes. Delegate Sickles.
Just a general question on the request for money for universities. We are cutting money for all these. So these people who advocate for these amendments, are they assuming that they want this money instead of the money that is cut before, or they want?
Well, I mean, I think the subcommittee always, you know, sort of looks at what the governor does, decides what our priorities are, and these fit into our priorities, and we try to fund them. I think we've always at least rearranged the deck chairs, some that have our own priorities, so, I mean, obviously, some of these things, you know, we'll take a look at, and I think that's what the subcommittee goes. It could be very difficult, but, you know, obviously, the towns have shown one or two things we can do, but yeah, you're right, man, I made the same point to the folks earlier, $1.2 billion deficit, it's difficult. I mean, as you know, you're already over 5% cut we've had to deal with, so no question about that. Thanks, Alex. Okay, next, Delegate Landis is on the sign sheet.
Bottom of page 6.
Let's see. Delegate Landis, so we're gonna go ahead to Delegate Stolley. Delegate Stolley, I think, is on 13. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate Stolley, welcome. Jamestown, this budget amendment deals with Jamestown, Yorktown 2019 commemoration. And it basically says the provisions of the Public Procurement Act will not apply to grants in support of the 2019 commemoration to nonprofit entities and organizations. Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to provide details of the 2019 commemoration, but I believe you know it well. Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, Delegate Stolley. Next, we have Delegate Kilgore. Delegate Kilgore here.